Okay, now let us get into taxability of capital gains. Okay, so today we'll be discussing the most important part, which is nothing but the taxability. So, what is the meaning of taxability? Taxability of capital gains. So, what is the meaning of taxability? The meaning of taxability is nothing but the rate at which the capital gains are taxable. That's what is something called as the taxability of capital gains. Regarding this taxability, we need to study three important sections, such as section number 111A, section number 112, section number 112A. So these are the three important sections which speaks about something called as the taxability of capital gain. This section speaks about only short-term capital asset. These two sections focus on something called as a long-term capital asset. So what we'll do, let us first start with section 111A. We'll see what is this, when it is applicable, if this is applicable, what is the rate of tax we need to consider. So all these things let us discuss regarding 111A. Now, section 111A. What is this? This section clearly specifies short-term capital gain. Okay, on what? On transfer. So whenever you are transferring something which is a short-term capital gain, and what is that capital asset? That asset is a short-term capital asset, and you are transferring something called as equity shares of a company. There is a company, you had purchased the equity shares, and those equity shares you are transferring within a period of less than 12 months. Ultimately, the gain arising is said to be called as a short-term capital gain. Or it may not be equity shares, or what? You might be transferring something called as equity oriented fund. You are transferring something called as equity oriented fund. Okay, what else you are transferring? Either you are transferring something called as equity shares of a company, or you are transferring something called as equity oriented fund. We know, we had already discussed the meaning of equity oriented fund. Okay, or even that could be something called as a business trust. So what is happening? You are transferring a capital asset. What is that capital asset? The capital asset being any of this following three. You are transferring either equity shares, or you are transferring equity oriented fund, or you are transferring something called as business trust. You are transferring something called as a business trust. And what is this capital asset? This capital asset is something called as a short-term capital asset. That's the reason you are getting something called as a short-term capital gain. So condition number one is what? You should be transferring a short-term capital asset being equity shares of a company, equity oriented funds, business trust. And the other condition imposed is what? You are supposed to pay something called as security transaction tax. You are supposed to pay security transaction tax. So if that is conditions are satisfied, ultimately what is happening? You are paying security transaction tax and you are transferring equity shares of a company, equity oriented funds, business trust. Being a short-term capital asset, you are getting some sort of capital gain. And how the transfer is happening? The transfer is happening through recognized stock exchange. The transfer is happening through recognized stock exchange. Okay, so that's what is the most important thing. So you are transferring that through recognized stock exchange. Even the transfer can happen through something called as your international financial service center. It is happening through recognized stock exchange. Even that could happen through your international financial services center also. This can happen. Even the transaction is paid in foreign currency or not, this provision is applicable if the above conditions are complied. So what are the above conditions? Let us have a quick discussion of the above conditions. You are transferring a short-term capital asset being equity shares of a company, equity oriented funds, business trust, which is a short-term capital asset, you are getting short-term capital gain, you are transferring this to recognized stock exchange, you are paying a security transaction tax. Even this can be transferred to your International Finance Service Center. Whether consideration is paid or payable in foreign currency or not, okay, even if security, if this is happening through IFSC, even security transaction tax paid or not, this provision is going to applicable. So once this provision is going to applicable, what is the consequences? The consequences is whatever short-term capital gain you get, on that you need to pay a tax of 15%, flat rate of 15% on the short-term capital gains earned. However, you are having an exception. What is this exception? Relief. That's what is called as relief under section 111A. See, by default, you are supposed to pay a tax of 15% on the short-term capital gain. In some cases, you can take a relief. What are those cases? Let us try to understand. To get the relief, conditions are to be satisfied. You need to satisfy certain conditions. If you satisfy certain conditions, then only you can take the relief under 111A. Now, what is the first condition? The first condition says that this provision is applicable only to a resident and resident individual. Okay, this provision is applicable to resident individual or resident HUF. Other than resident and individual HUF, this provision is not applicable to any other person. Now, then what? Such SSC. Who is such SSC? Such SSC being a resident individual or such SSC being a resident HUF. Such SSC. What is happening to such SSC? Have other income, have this such as SSC have income other than short-term capital gain under 111A. Okay, such SSC have income other than short-term capital gain under section 111A, which is less than basic exemption limit. What is the meaning of this? What is the meaning of this? See here again, SSC having income other than short-term capital gains under 111A. Say suppose that SSC is having a gross total income of 3,50,000. Okay, such SSC is having a gross total income of 3,50,000. What is the breakup of this 3,50,000? Let us consider income from salaries. Income from salaries, it's not other sources. Let us consider salary income. He is having a salary income amounting to 2 lakhs. Then short-term capital gain covered under section 111A, he is having 1,50,000. Now, what is the total? The total is coming to 3,50,000. Now, such SSC has other income other than STGC, which is less than basic exemption limit. Your GTI is 3,50,000. From this, if I reduce my short-term capital gain under section 111A, what? If this is less than the basic exemption limit, if this difference I need to compare. So what we are doing there? We are trying to compare your what? GTI minus STCG under section 111A. So this should be less than basic exemption limit. So what is this difference coming to? 2 lakhs. So let us consider the SSC age is 50 years. Then ultimately this is less than the basic exemption limit. So as the condition is satisfied, he can go for relief. So here what is happening? So condition number 1, resident individual or resident HUF, income other than short-term capital gain is less than basic exemption limit, then he can take a relief under Income Tax Act. So in this case, let us see what is the tax payable. Tax payable after considering the relief. Now, what is the rate of tax under 111A? the rate of tax is 15% on short-term capital gain. But if this condition is satisfied, he can take some sort of relief. What is that relief? Which is nothing but take your short-term capital gain. From this, you take your basic exemption limit. From this basic exemption limit, what you do? You reduce your other income. I mean, income other than short-term capital gain under 111A. So this difference, on this difference, what you do? You need to compute the tax. That means here, what is the relief amount? The relief amount is nothing but I am going to take the basic exemption minus other income. So in the given example, what is the amount of tax you need to pay? Let us see. Short-term capital gain covered under 111A is nothing but 1,50,000. Now, what is the amount of relief I can consider? Basic exemption limit is 2,50,000. What is his other income? His other income is going to be 2 lakhs. So, this 50,000 is the relief which I am giving. So, this 50,000 is the relief which you are giving. So, 2,50,000 minus 2 lakhs. 50,000 is the relief. So, 1,50,000 minus 50,000. On this, you are supposed to impose 15%. Okay, that's what is one important thing we need to consider, relief. And another important thing is nothing but chapter 6A should not be allowed. Chapter 6A deduction should not be allowed from short-term capital gains covered under section 111A. Chapter 6A deductions should not be allowed from capital gains, short-term capital gain covered under section 111A. That's what is this 15% rate is applicable only for what? Only for equity shares, units of equity oriented fund, business trust. Only for this 15%. Other short-term capital asset, if we see other short-term capital asset, let us see. Other short-term capital asset, other short-term capital asset. What is the amount of tax? Other short-term capital asset, the amount of tax is nothing but as per the slab rates. So we need to apply the slab rates. Only this 15% rate is applicable for the equity shares, equity oriented fund, business trust, which is a short-term capital asset on which security transaction tax is paid. That's what is 111A. Now let us quickly move on to 112. Section 112. Section 112. Now here, okay, so by default the tax rate on long-term capital gain is going to be 20%. Whether you are individual or HUF, whether you are a domestic company, firm, etc. Okay, whether you are an individual HUF, whether you are a domestic company or anyone, 20% is the rate of tax. However, in the case of a resident individual, in the case of resident HUF, what you can do? You can always take the relief. What is the amount of relief which you can consider? Same as 111A. Let us see. What is the amount of relief which you can consider? The amount of relief is nothing but your basic exemption limit minus what? Your other income. Basic exemption limit minus other income. That's what is the relief which you will be getting. Then what is the tax there? Tax is nothing but take your long-term capital gain minus take the relief. On this you apply 20%. So flat rate of 20% will be imposed. That's what is nothing but the section 112. Now section 112 also gives you an option. Let us discuss that. Okay, for this what? We need to refer to proviso to section 112. Let us see. If we refer to something called as proviso proviso to section 112. What it says? It says that you are getting some sort of long-term capital gain, and this long-term capital gains you are getting from something called as listed securities. You are getting this from listed securities, or you are getting this from something called as zero coupon bonds. Okay, this listed securities will not include, the act clearly says listed securities other than unit. Okay, so now what it says, this provision says that you are having an option. What? Tax payable on the listed shares. What you can do, either you can consider 10% as the rate of tax, or you can consider 20% as your rate of tax. If you consider 10%, indexation cannot be taken. If you consider 20%, indexation can be considered. So the act says you, in the case of this both, either your long-term capital gain is taxable. Under both the cases, your long-term capital gain, whatever long-term capital gain you are getting, is taxable either at 10% or at 20%. Long-term capital gain is taxable at what? At either 10% or at 20%. When 10%, no benefit of indexation is allowed. No benefit of indexation is given to you. No benefit of indexation is given. Here you can take the benefit of indexation. So if you don't take the benefit of indexation, 10%. If you take the benefit of indexation, it is going to be 20%. Along with this, what the act says, whatever, say, based upon this, what we are doing, we are trying to determine the tax. So here the act says that tax, whatever tax payable, so I need to take the tax payable. So this tax payable, what I need to do, I need to see if this tax payable exceeds what? 10% of capital gain before indexation. 10% of the capital gain before indexation. Before giving indexation, you calculate the capital gain. On that, consider something called as 10%. Now, if the tax payable exceeds this 10%, then ignore 10% of above. So whatever 10% of capital gains before indexation you are getting, that I will ignore. Say, let us consider capital gains before indexation is coming to 1 lakh. 10% of this is coming to 10,000. So what is this 10,000? 10% of capital gains before indexation. So what the act says, tax payable exceeds. Say suppose you are getting a tax payable which is nothing but 15,000. Now what the act says, ignore 10% of the capital gain. So ultimately 15,000 tax payable, I will ignore 10,000. So ultimately 5,000 is the tax which you are supposed to pay. Okay, so that's what is nothing but your section 112. Section 112, generally if it is not a listed securities or zero coupon bonds, by default 20%. If there is a listed securities or a zero coupon bond, two options, either you go for 10%, don't take indexation, or you go for 20%, take the benefit of indexation. Apart from this, the provision clearly says whatever tax payable, if the tax payable exceeds 10% of capital gains before indexation, then ignore such excess. That means such excess will be ignored and the differential only will be taxable. So in this case, the excess is 10%, 10,000. We are ignoring the 10,000 and only the 5,000 is taxable here. Same point, no deductions under chapter 6A is allowed. You cannot take any sort of deductions under chapter 6A. That are not going to be allowed at all. So that's what is end of your section 112. Now the last section under the head capital gains, which is nothing but section 112A. What is this? Section 112A, the heading of this section is nothing but tax on long-term capital asset. Tax on long-term capital asset in certain cases. That means it is not going to be applicable for all the cases. Now, conditions. What are the conditions for invoking section 112? Conditions for invoking or application of section 112. Conditions for invoking section 112A. Let us try to understand the conditions one by one. First condition is what? Total income includes income chargeable under the head capital gains. Then only you are coming under the head capital gains, otherwise you won't be coming to the capital gains at all. So here what the first condition says, the first condition is a basic condition which says that total income includes what? Includes any income chargeable under the head. Total income includes any income chargeable under the head called as capital gain. That's what is nothing but your first condition. Then the second condition says you need to transfer a long-term capital asset. You need to transfer a long-term capital asset. And what is that long-term capital asset? Either that could be equity shares, either that could be equity shares of a company, or that could be equity oriented units of equity oriented fund, or that could be business trust. That means if this is a short term 111A, if this is a long term section 112A, right? So equity shares, units of equity oriented fund, business trust, and compulsorily on this long term capital asset you should have been paid security transaction tax, and this should be transferable through recognized stock exchange. Okay, the difference between 112A and 111A, 2 points. One, that is applicable for short term, this is applicable for long term. Second point, 111A is applicable even if the transfer is happening through IFSC, but 112A is not applicable if the transfer is happening through IFSC. So not applicable if transferred in IFSC. So this section is not going to be applicable if you are transferring IFSC. That means in your recognized stock exchange, if you transfer a long-term capital asset which is nothing but equity shares, units of equity oriented fund, and business trust, then this provision is going to be applicable. So security transaction tax has to be paid on what? Security transaction tax on the equity shares, on the transferred equity shares of a company which is being transferred. Security transaction tax on transfer of units of equity oriented fund. Security transaction tax on transfer of a business trust. Then this provision is going to be invoked. So once you are going to invoke this provision, then what shall be the consequences, right? So here implication of complying above conditions. If you comply the above conditions, what are the implications which you are going to face? Let us see implications. What is the implication number one? The implication number one is nothing but long-term capital gain. Long-term capital gain is taxable. Long-term capital gain shall be taxable if it is exceeding 10%. If it is exceeding 1 lakh, that means what? If such gain exceeds 1 lakh, then taxable at what? 10%. Of course, this 10%, 20%, 15%, along with that you need to add your education and health cess, which is nothing but the 4%. That's what is the additional thing which you need to apply. So here excess of 1 lakh, that means if you are gain you are getting 1,10,000. Okay, so here what is the tax? 10% is the rate of tax on long term capital gain minus 1 lakh. So on this differential you need to comply 10%. Now even we will be having a relief under section 112A also. Always relief will be given if you are a resident individual, or relief will be given if you are a resident HUF, and your other income or income other than long term capital gain covered under 112A is less than basic exemption limit. That means what we are trying to do? We are trying to see if your basic other income is less than your basic exemption limit or not. That means how I will do? From your gross total income, I need to reduce long-term capital gain covered under section 111A. Long-term capital gains covered under section 112A. Sorry, long-term capital gains covered under 112A. Now this difference, if less than what? Less than basic exemption limit, then he is eligible for relief. What is the amount of relief we can consider? The amount of relief is nothing but take your basic exemption limit. From the basic exemption limit, you reduce, what you reduce? You reduce your income other than long-term capital gains. So other income I need to reduce. So that's what is the amount of relief. Now what is the taxability there? 10% of long-term capital gain minus relief I need to consider. So that's what is the implication of tax we need to consider. Now here when we compute capital gain under section 112A, we need to also again discuss on something called as the cost of acquisition, which is as per section 55 subsection 2 clause AC. So what this section says? This section says that whenever the above mentioned long-term capital asset, what are the above mentioned long-term capital asset? Equity shares of a company, units of equity oriented fund, or something called as business trust. I need to see if this is acquired before 1st February 2018. So this provision is going to be applicable only where the above mentioned long-term capital asset are acquired before 1st February 2018. Now any shares purchased before this date, then how do we calculate the cost of acquisition? Let us try to see. Let us try to understand what are the consequences here. Higher of the following. So I need to consider two things there. Of the two things, whichever is highest, that will be considered as my cost of acquisition. First what? Take something called as cost of acquisition of either equity shares or units of equity oriented fund or business trust. Take the cost of acquisition. Then B. What is B? B is something least of the following. What is the least of the following? A. Fair market value. Take the fair market value as on 1st April 2018. Take the fair market value as on 1st April 2018 or sale consideration received. Sale consideration received. Whatever sale consideration you are receiving, that I will consider. Whichever is least will be called as B. A or B, whichever is higher, will be something called as your cost of acquisition as per section 55 subsection 2 AC. So this is nothing but your section 55 subsection 2 clause AC. That's it. So now we have done with the provisions of the capital gain. Now we are ready to do the problems. Now let us get started with the problems now. So let us discuss one of the basic problem here. From the following information, determine the capital gains of Mr. X, who acquired 1000 equity shares on 1st April 2017. Equation of equity shares. Ultimately 112A should be running in your mind. Okay. Now 1000 equity shares on so and so date for a consideration of 15 lakhs. So now what the cost of acquisition provision says here, 55 subsection 2 clause AC, if we see cost of acquisition, let us quickly take the cost of acquisition. What is the cost of acquisition there? First point, cost of acquisition. What was the cost of acquisition? 15 lakhs was the cost of acquisition. Then second, what is the second? Fair market value as on 1st April to 1st February 2018. Fair market value as on 1st February 2018. 1st February 2018 or 31st Jan 2018 both remains the same. So ultimately here, what is the FMV? If we try to see the fair market value on 1st February 2018, the fair market value on 31st January 2018 was 15,25,000. He sold the shares on so and so date for a consideration. So I need to also take the sale consideration. What is the sale consideration? 6,75,000 is the sale consideration. Now what the provision says, least of the following. What is least? 15,25,000 or 16,75,000. So the least is what? 15,25,000 is the least. Now what is the cost of acquisition? 1 or 2, whichever is highest. 15 lakhs or 15,25,000. What is highest? This is highest. So 15,25,000 will be considered as your cost of acquisition as per section 55 subsection 2 clause AC. Done. Now what is asking? Brokerage expenses was 0.5% of the sales. Compute long-term capital gain on sale of equity shares. It's very simple. Computation of long-term capital gain, take your full value of consideration. Full value of consideration is going to be 16,75,000 less brokerage. What is the brokerage? 0.5% of your sale consideration. 16,75,000 into 0.5% if I consider, here 8,375 is nothing but the brokerage. So net sale consideration is going to be 16,75,000 minus the brokerage. That will give you 16,66,625 as your net sale consideration. Now less cost of acquisition. You should not give the benefit of indexation. Working note number 1. Your working note number 1 is this. So what is the cost of acquisition? 15,25,000 is the cost of acquisition. Now difference is what? 16,66,625 minus 15,25,000. That gives you 1,41,625. Now if the problem is asking you to compute what? If the problem is asking you to compute the tax, what we are saying, tax on long-term capital gain covered under 112A is basically what? I will give an exemption to the extent of 1 lakh. So whatever differential you are having on this 41,625, you need to pay 10%. Of course, along with the 10%, you should also add your health and education cess. So that's what is basically your problem. Now, let us quickly move on to the next problem here. I guess next problem is also almost the same. Okay, let us see what is happening here. What is happening? 1000 acquired before 1st February 2018. Then ultimately what shall be your cost of acquisition there? Cost of acquisition is nothing but the initial cost of acquisition, which is nothing but 15 lakhs. Then I need to compare fair market value as on 1st February 2018. Fair market value is going to be 15 lakhs. Then sale consideration I need to consider. Sale consideration, you are selling that to be 14,75,000. then what the act says here, least of the following two. Least of the following two you have to consider. Least of the following two. What is least? 14,75,000 is the least. And you are acquiring this for a cost of 15,25,000. Now what the provision says? Higher of the following two. So ultimately 15,25,000 is nothing but your cost of acquisition. Then I need to compute the capital gain. So how do I compute the capital gains here? Sale consideration. Take the sale consideration 14,75,000 and you are having a brokerage. What is the brokerage? 0.1%. 14,75,000 into 0.1% if I do, you will be getting the brokerage there. So what is the brokerage? Let us see. 14,75,000 into security into what? Brokerage. See, brokerage is 0.5%. It's not 10. So the brokerage is going to be 7,375. Net consideration is what? 14,75,000 minus this. You are getting 14,67,625 as your net sale consideration. Cost of acquisition we had already calculated here. Cost of acquisition to be 15,25,000 is your cost of acquisition. So 14,67,625 minus 15,25,000, that will give you a long-term capital loss of 57,375 is nothing but your long-term capital loss. Long-term capital loss is this. That's the end of your next problem. It's very simple. Then let us move on to the third one. Mr. Malik owns a factory building. Okay, Malik owns a factory building. On which he had been claiming depreciation for the past few years. It is the only asset in the block. Factory building and land appurtenant thereto was sold during the year. So you sold the land appurtenant thereto and everything. So building during the year. When the building was completed? 2014. When you are selling? In the current assessment year. So ultimately, as it's a building put to use for a period of more than 24 months, will be called that as a long term. So here, completed the building in 2004 for 10 lakhs. So here the cost of acquisition is what? 10 lakhs. Land appurtenant thereto was purchased in April 2003 for 11 lakhs. So you are getting a land appurtenant thereto amounting to 11 lakhs. Now, let us see. So total is what? Building was completed in that year. Land appurtenant thereto was purchased in so and so year. Now, let us see. What you are doing? The factory building and land appurtenant thereto was sold. Now, let us try to see here what is happening. Advance received from prospective buyer for land in 2004. Forfeited in favor as negotiations were filed. So you have taken an advance. When the advance was taken? The advance was taken in 2004. So the advance is taken in 2004. Ultimately what the provision says, section 51 is applicable. As per section 51, what we'll do? This will be reduced. This will be reduced from the cost of acquisition. So what is the cost of acquisition? The cost of acquisition of land was 11 lakhs. Okay. As the advance is received, ultimately what I will do is 50,000 will be reduced from your 11 lakhs. Thereby, I'll be considering what? 10,50,000 as the cost of acquisition. Okay. So we'll be considering 10,50,000 as the cost of acquisition. WDV of the building block. WDV of the building block is 8,74,800. See, the problem is very tricky here. You need to be very careful. Why? Because WDV and factory building, you are taking depreciation. So whenever you are taking depreciation, whenever it is a depreciable capital asset, you need to compute the capital gain in accordance with section 50. Whenever you are computing in accordance with section 50, how do you compute your capital gain? What is your cost of acquisition rather? Your cost of acquisition is nothing but opening WDV as on 1st April at the beginning of the previous year. To this you need to add any sort of acquisitions happening during the period. That will be something called as your cost of acquisition. Okay, two things are there. Depreciation is taken on factory building. So for the factory building, I should not take this as a cost. I need to calculate the cost in accordance with section 50. So we need to calculate the cost of acquisition in accordance with section 50. Land, as no depreciation is claimed, so as no depreciation is claimed, so ultimately what you can do, you can consider as no depreciation is claimed, you can consider this as a long-term capital asset on which indexation can be provided. So you can take the benefit of indexation. You can take the benefit of indexation. That's it. Now, okay, you can take the benefit of indexation. Sale value of the factory building is 8 lakhs. So two assets are there. I need to segregate the building separately. I need to segregate the land separately. Building the consideration is 8 lakhs. For building the cost of acquisition is something else. Land the sale consideration is 40 lakhs. Land the cost of acquisition is something else. So we need to compute the amount of taxable capital gain and the amount to be invested under section 54 EC for availing maximum exemption. See what section 54 EC says. As per section 54 EC, you can invest in the notified bonds within a period of 6 months from the within the 6 months you need to invest. Whatever amount you are investing, that will be allowed as exemption under 54 EC, but the amount should not exceed 50 lakhs. That's what the provision says. So now let us quickly compute here. Computation of your capital gain. Computation of capital gain for the assessment year. Computation of capital gain for assessment year 2021 is as follows. Let us take here particulars. Okay. Let us maintain one column for land, other column for your factory building. First, what I have to consider? We need to consider something called as sale consideration. What is telling you? Land, you are getting a consideration of 40 lakhs. Building, you are getting a consideration of 8 lakhs. Okay, sale consideration. Land, you are getting a consideration of 40. Building, you are getting a consideration of 8 lakhs. From this, what I am supposed to do? Either I have to provide something called as indexed cost of acquisition, or I need to reduce something called as cost of acquisition. This building is a depreciable asset, so there won't be any sort of indexation. For this, I need to apply section 50. You are going to apply section 50. Indexed cost of acquisition. When the asset was acquired, when the land was acquired, the land was purchased in April 2003 for a cost of 11 lakhs. So, take your cost of acquisition to be 11 lakhs. Okay. From this, as per section 51, advance received and forfeited. Okay. So, as that is happening in 2004, you are going to apply section 51. So, you are going to apply there what? Section 51 is going to be applicable there. So as per section 51, what we'll be doing? We'll be reducing the advance money received and forfeited from what? We'll be reducing this from the cost of acquisition. Why? Because any sort of advance money received on or before 1st April 2014. Okay, before. If the advance money, not on or before, if the advance money is received before 1st April 2014, then we are going to apply section 51. Same advance money received on or after 1st April 2014, then it's not section 51, then it is going to be income from other sources. So your cost of acquisition is what? 10,50,000 into index value for the year of transfer 289. Divided by index value for the year of acquisition. When that land was acquired 2003. So I need to take the index value for the year 2003, which gives you 109. This you need to explain. You explain provision of section 151. So this provision has to be explained clearly. You need to clearly explain the provision called as section 51. Okay, this provision has to be explained as a part. Right. Okay, you need to give an explanation for this. Now what is you are getting here? 10,50,000. You take that as 10,50,000 into 289 divided by 109. that gives you 2 lakhs, sorry, 27 lakhs, 83,000, 27 lakhs 83,950, 23 lakhs 83,950, 945, 945. It's not 950, it's 945. 27 lakhs 83,945. Take this as 945. Now we have done with this. Then for your building, there won't be any index cost of acquisition. Then what I need to consider? I need to consider my cost of acquisition. Take your cost of acquisition. For land, you won't be having any cost of acquisition. You will be having only for building. So what section 50 says? Cost of acquisition is determined under section 50. So what it says? Take the WDV. So you have to consider your WDV. If we go back to the problem, clearly mentioned, WDV as on 1st April 2019 was 8,74,800. No asset was acquired during the period, so ultimately my cost of acquisition is going to be 8,74,800. So what is your cost of acquisition there? Cost of acquisition is 8,74,800. That's nothing but your cost of acquisition. So this difference will give you, see, we have already discussed, section 50 clearly says even though the asset is a long-term capital asset. So section 50 always says that even though the asset is a long-term capital asset, the gain or loss which you are getting will be always something called as a short-term capital gain or short-term capital loss. Okay. So here for your land and buildings, okay, two things are there. Here for the first one, you are having long-term capital gain. So what is the long-term capital gain here? Consideration 40 lakhs. Indexed cost of acquisition 27 lakhs 83,945. That will give you 12 lakhs 16,000, 12 lakhs 16,055. 12 lakhs 16,055 is nothing but the long-term capital gain. Here you don't have any long-term capital gain. Now comes your short-term capital gain, short-term capital gain or short-term capital loss. Here you don't have anything, but coming to here, 74,800 is nothing but the short-term capital loss. Now this concept we'll discuss again. Set off and carry forward. Short-term capital loss can be set off against long-term capital gain. So what I will do, my long-term capital gain is what? 12,16,055. As I can set off this short-term capital loss with this, so 12,16,055 minus 74,800 if I do, I'll be getting 11,41,255. What is this? Long-term capital gain. So presentation is most important here. So what we can do? Let us write like this. Long-term capital gain 74,800 less short-term capital loss. Sorry, short-term capital loss is 74,800. Long-term capital gain is going to be 12,16,055. Now your long-term capital gain, you are having a long-term capital gain of 11,41,255 is your long-term capital gain. Now what he says, maximum permissible investment under section 54 EC. 54 EC says that your cost of the asset, cost of the notified bonds or long-term capital gain, whichever is least. So I can invest maximum to the extent of 11,45,255. Thereby my taxable gain is going to be 0. Here two things you need to explain. I want you to explain section 51. You need to state clearly, if the advance money is received before 1st April 2014, what is the provision? After, on or after that date, what is the provision? Then you need to also clearly explain something called as per section 54 EC. What are the conditions to be satisfied so that 54 EC is applicable? Along with that, you should also clearly explain what is the amount of exemption under section 54 EC. What are the conditions you need to do? You have to acquire that asset within a 6 months from the date of transfer. Then only you can take this benefit. So what is the lock-in period? There are two lock-in periods. If you acquire on or after 1st April 2018, the lock-in period is going to be 3 years. So that entire provision for 54 EC you should explain, and you should also explain the maximum limit under 54 EC is 50 lakhs. So that's what is the end of this. Okay, now let us quickly move on to the next one. Mr. Abhay purchased 1000 listed equity shares of rupees 10 each at 100 rupees per share from a broker. 10 rupees each at 100 rupees per share from a broker. So he is purchasing the shares from a broker on so and so date. He paid a brokerage of 3000 rupees. On 15th March 2019, he was given a bonus shares by the company on the basis of 1 share for every 2 shares held. What is the provision for the bonus shares? Any bonus shares issued on or after 1st April 2001, the cost of acquisition is to be taken as nil. When the bonus shares were issued on 15th March 2019, he was given a bonus share. So ultimately for the bonus shares, the cost of acquisition is supposed to be considered as 0. Now, the date of issue is 15th March. Okay. On the same date, he was also given right shares of 1000 at 90 rupees per share. He acquired 50% of the right shares and sold the balance 50% at a sum of 67,500. Right shares were allotted to him on 30th April 2019. All the shares were sold him on 24th September 2019. So all the shares were sold by him on the so and so date at 280 per share through a recognized stock exchange. So this problem is a very tricky problem. This may consist of a long-term capital asset. This may also consist of short-term capital asset. Why I am telling this is very tricky and very important, because if this is a long-term capital asset, what is the share you are selling? You are transferring equity shares which are listed through recognized stock exchange. So ultimately this is coming under the purview of 112A. If that is a short-term capital asset on which the security transaction tax is paid, sold through recognized stock exchange, this is coming under the purview of 111A. So ultimately, which asset comes under long-term? Original shares purchased on May, those shares you are selling. Those shares, as it's a financial asset, period of holding is more than 1 year, I will call this 1000 shares as a long term. Then what? Bonus issue for 1 share for 2 share held. That means if you hold 2 share, you will be getting 1 share as bonus. How many shares you are holding? 1000 shares. How many shares you will get as a bonus? 1000 divided by 2, 500 shares will be the bonus. So the bonus issue is happening on 15th May. Transfer is happening on 24th September. So ultimately less than 12 months. So the bonus issue is going to be considered as well short-term capital asset. Then what? On the same date, right issue was happened. So ultimately total how many shares is having? Original shares 1000, bonus shares 500, right shares again 1000. So total this fellow is having 2500. Now what he has done, all the shares held by him has been sold. So now I need to calculate the capital gain for your original shares. I need to calculate the capital gains for your right shares. I need to calculate the capital gains for your bonus shares. In the right shares, you had acquired something and you have renounced something. For that also I need to calculate. Now let us get into the problem here and try to do it like this. Computation of your capital gain takes something called as your particulars. Okay, particulars. First column you take original shares. Second column you take that as a right entitlement. That means whatever right entitlement. Then you consider something called as your right shares. Okay, right shares. Then the last thing will be something called as our bonus. Now let us take the number of shares here. The problem clearly specifies originally you have purchased 1000 shares and the company gave 1 share as a bonus for every 2 shares held. So as you are holding 500 shares, you will be getting 50 shares as the bonus. And the problem clearly specified rights issue was 1000. Of that 50% was entitled exercising, remaining 50% was renounced. So remaining 50% was renounced. So ultimately, when you are renouncing, the cost of acquisition will not be there. So 50% comes to 500, 50% comes to another 500. Now what is telling? Sale consideration. You are selling each share to the recognized stock exchange at 480 rupees per share. Sorry, 280 rupees per share, 280 rupees per share, 280 rupees per share. Now you will be getting something called as our full value of consideration. 1000 into 280, that gives you 2,80,000. 500 into 280, 500 into 280, that will give you 500. At what price you are renouncing? That's what. Renouncing is not happening at this. Renouncing is happening at 90 rupees per share. So 500 into 90. Okay, here what is happening? Full value of consideration we are going to calculate. Okay, now at what value he is transferring? 50% is being transferred at 67,500. Now let us come here. Here the consideration he is getting is 67,500. So this I cannot consider as 480. This is given. This is purely given in the problem. Given. Now what is the cost of acquisition of your rights issue? The cost of, the sale consideration of the rights issue is 500 into 280. That gives you 1,40,000. Same case for the bonus, 1,40,000. Less what? Take your cost of acquisition. What could be my cost of acquisition? As 112A is applicable, you should not take the benefit of your indexation. So as indexation I cannot take, what is my cost of acquisition for this? Abhay purchased 1000 shares of rupees 10 each at 100 rupees per share. So you are purchasing this at 100 rupees per share. Okay, he paid 3000 rupees as a brokerage. Okay, he is paying 3000 rupees as a brokerage. So here I need to consider the cost of acquisition. When the shares were acquired, let us see. The shares were acquired on or before 1st February 2018. So as you are acquiring on or before 1st February 2018, I need to apply the cost of acquisition under 55 subsection 2 clause AC. What this is, take the cost of acquisition. What is the cost of acquisition? 100 into 1000, 100 rupees per share into 1000 shares, you will be getting 1 lakh. So you will be getting what? 1 lakh is nothing but the cost of acquisition, which will be called as 1. What is B? B is something called as fair market value. Fair market value as on 1st February 2018. Is the fair market value given? Let us see. He paid a brokerage, he was given a bonus shares on the so and so date. On the same date, he was also acquired this. 50% of the thing is sold for this. 7th April, the rights issue were allotted to him on 30th April. All the shares were sold through this. Compute capital gain tax, assuming income from other sources. This fair market value and so and so date is what? 150 rupees per share. So ultimately, 150 into 100, that gives you 1,50,000. So what is B? This or sale consideration. At what price you are getting a sale consideration? 280. 280 into 1000. That gives you 2,80,000. So what the provision says? 2,80,000 or 1,50,000, whichever is least, lower. 1,50,000. 1,50,000 or 1 lakh, whichever is highest. 1,50,000 is the highest. So as per section 55 subsection 2 AC, I have to consider my cost of acquisition as 1,50,000. So here you are calculating this as 1,50,000. You should explain this as a part of your working note number 1. How you are getting this 1,50,000? The explanation should be compulsorily provided. Here you are not acquiring this, you are renouncing. Whereas this you are acquiring. The cost of acquisition is what? 90. So you are acquiring 500 shares, 500 into 90, that gives you 45,000. As bonus issue is happening after 1st April 2001, the cost of acquisition is going to be nil. So this difference will give you long-term capital gain. First case, you are getting a long-term capital gain of 1,30,000. Rest of the cases, you will be getting only short-term capital gain. So what is our short-term capital gain? 67,500. 1,40,000 minus 45,000, you'll be getting something called as 95,000. And here you will be getting something called as 1,40,000. So this what is nothing but your gain, long term as well as short term capital gain. Now what is the total short term capital gain? Short term capital gain falls under section 111A. Short term capital gain falls under section 111A. Now what is the total? The total is nothing but 67,500 plus 95,000 plus 1,40,000 plus 1,40,000. What is the total you are getting? 67,500 plus 95,000 plus 1,40,000. If I do, I'll be getting here. Okay, so here you are getting 1,40,000 from bonus, 95,000 from sale of the rights issue. This renouncement will not be forming part of your 111A. Why? Because this renouncement is not happening through a recognized stock exchange. So ultimately 1,40,000 plus 95,000, this will be getting as 2,35,000. So short term capital gain under 111A is 2,35,000. Other short term capital gain is nothing but 67,500. Then long term capital gain under section 112A. Sorry, under section 112A. So you are also having long term capital gain under section 112A. What is that? Long term capital gain under section 112A. Here, what is the long term capital gain you are getting? 1,30,000. What 112A says? 112A says you should not take the benefit of indexation. We have not taken the benefit of indexation. It says if your long term capital gain is in excess of 1 lakh, up to 1 lakh it is not taxable. So 1 lakh I will minus. So whatever you are getting, 1,30,000 minus 1 lakh. So the taxable long term capital gain under 112A is going to be only 30,000. So now we need to compute your total income. So here what will be considered as your total income? Income from, the problem also mentioned, you are having something called as income from other sources. If this point is not mentioned, I could have taken the relief under section 111A, I could have taken the relief under section 112A. But now income from other sources, the problem clearly specifies you are having 5,40,000 as your income from other sources. Now what is your gross total income? Of course, there is no chapter 60 reductions. So gross total income will remain same as your total income. Short term capital gain under 111A is 2,35,000 plus other short term capital gain is 67,500. Long term capital gain taxable under 112A is going to be 30,000 plus other sources, the total is coming to be 5,40,000. So the total income is 8,72,500 is nothing but your total income. Now total income, if I remove my short term, if I remove my long term under 112A, that is more than the basic exemption limit. As it is more than the exemption limit, we need not give the relief under 111A, we need not give the relief under 112A as well. Now I can simply and happily calculate the tax liability. Tax on long term capital gain under section 112A. So what is the consequences there? Taxable long term capital gain is 30% and we have discussed the tax rate is what? 10%. So you'll be getting this as what? 3,000 is nothing but the tax on your long term capital gain. Then you are also having something called as tax on short-term capital gain under 111A. So what the provision says, whatever capital gain you are getting on that 15% is the flat rate. So now what I am supposed to, 2,35,000 is the short-term capital gain under 111A. On this, if I compute 15%, what is the amount you are getting? 2,35,000 into 15% if I do, you will be getting 35,250. So the taxable income is nothing but 35, I mean the tax is nothing but 35,250 exclusive of your cess component. Then you are also having what? Other short-term capital gain, income from other sources. So this both the things are taxable at the slab rate. Now tax on balance. Tax on balance of income. What is the balance of income? The balance of income is nothing but 67,500 plus 5,40,000. So how much you are getting? 5,40,000 plus 67,500. So this total you are getting, which is nothing but 6,07,500. So on this 6,07,500, you need to calculate the slab rate. 0 to 2,50,000, 2,50,000 to 5 lakhs, 5 lakhs to 10 lakhs, etc. etc. So if you apply the slab rates, you will be getting a tax component of 34,000. Now, what is the total? Tax under 111A, tax under 112A, and they were taxed on the balance of income 3,000 plus 35,250 plus 34,000. The total is going to give you 72,500. So the total gives you 72,250 is nothing but your tax. So here you are getting a total tax of this. To this, what we need to do? Add 4% what? Health and education cess. So 72,250, and again it's not a case of your rebate under 87A because your gross total income is more than this 5 lakhs. So ultimately what? 672,250 into 4% if I do, you will be getting 2,890 as your cess. To this, if you add this, your total tax liability rounded off will be to 75,140. So what is the total you are getting? This plus 72,250 will be getting 75,140. This is nothing but your net tax liability. Net tax liability is nothing but this. Okay, that's what is your end of the problem. Now let us move on to the next problem. So still we are having 3 problems. Okay, so now let us move on to the next problem here. Mukesh, aged 55, owns a residential house at Nagpur. It was acquired by Mukesh on 10th October 2004. So the date of acquisition was what? 10th October 2004 for a consideration of 14,50,000. It was sold for 55 lakhs on 4th November 2019. The stamp valuation authority fixed the rate to be 75 lakhs. SSC paid 2% of the sale consideration as a brokerage. Now, whenever the sale consideration is less than the stamp duty value, 50C is applicable. So as per 50C, what is the consequences? Stamp duty value, because the difference is more than 10%, so you can easily understand that. So as the difference is more, so ultimately what we'll do, we'll be considering the stamp duty value as it was 75 lakhs as it was sale consideration. This I'll explain, I want you to solve. So sale consideration 75 lakhs. And what is doing? Brokerage, less brokerage. Brokerage 2% of the consideration. Brokerage 2% of the consideration received. What is the consideration received? 55 lakhs. So on the 55 lakhs, you can consider 2%. So brokerage selling expense is going to be 1,10,000. So what is the net sale consideration? 75 lakhs minus 1,10,000. Your net sale consideration is going to be 73 lakhs 90,000. Now what happened? Indexed cost of acquisition. Indexed cost of acquisition. Mukesh acquired the house for 14 lakhs 50,000. So into index value for the year of transfer divided by index value for the year of acquisition. Means I need to see The index value for 4, 5. See the index value for 4, 5. For 4, 5, for 4, 5, the index value could be 113. Now, 14,50,000 into 289 divided by 113 will give you the indexed cost of acquisition, which is nothing but 37,08,407. That's what is nothing but your indexed cost of acquisition. That gives your capital gain. So minus 73,90,000 minus your cost of acquisition, you are getting 36,81,593. 36,81,593. Done. Mukesh acquired another residential house in Chennai for 10 lakhs and deposited 10 lakhs on 10th April 2020 in capital gain bonds for Rural Electrification Corporation. So 54 EC. For taking 54 EC, I need to see the date of transfer. What was the date of transfer? Sold on 1st November 2019. That means you should acquire within a period of 6 months from the date of transfer. Means November, December, January, February, March, April. So what is the date of acquisition? The date of acquisition is 10th April 2004. So 10th April 2004 was the date of acquisition. So as it is within 6 months from the date of transfer. So it is happening within a period of 6 months because it was sold on what? November, 4th November, and you are doing this within a period of 6 months from the date of transfer. So ultimately you can take the benefit of 54 EC. Now what you are doing? Mukesh acquired the residential house in Chennai on so and so date. Purchase can happen either 1 year before or within 2 years after the date of transfer. So 54 is applicable, 54 EC is also applicable. Deposited 5 lakhs in capital gain deposit account in Nationalized Bank for construction of an additional floor in Chennai. So ultimately, if this deposit is happening on or before filing of the income tax return, Mukesh is an individual. So he will file the return on 31st July 2020. So as he is going to file the return on 31st July 2020, if this is happening before the date, even this can be taken. So here under 54, under section 54, you can take 15 lakhs as the exemption under section 54. But you need to explain clearly what is section 54, conditions of that, all these things you need to explain. That's what is section 54. And 54 EC should explain clearly as it is within the period of 6 months of the date of transfer, as he is acquiring rural electrification bonds and the value is less than 50 lakhs, the value can be taken. So here you are taking this as reduction. So whatever balance you get, what is the balance you are getting? 11 lakhs 81,593. 81,593. What is asking? Compute capital gain chargeable to tax in the hands of Mr. X. Assume that no other income is chargeable tax. So only one income is there. Apart from your long-term capital gain, you don't have anything. Mukesh is an individual. The problem is silent about his residence status. I am assuming the person being a resident. So as he is a resident, you can take the relief under section 112. So what is the relief under section 112? So the relief which you are going to get is nothing but, see, what is the relief which you can claim? Let us see. So here, take your long-term capital gain taxable. Long-term capital gain taxable. See, what is the relief? The relief is nothing but your basic exemption limit minus your other income. So in this case, you don't have any other income. So the relief itself is what? Basic exemption limit. So tax liability will be what? Here, to compute the tax liability, long-term capital gain. What is the long-term capital gain? 11 lakhs 81,593. Now you calculate the relief under section 112. So what is the relief under section 112? Take your basic exemption limit. What is your basic exemption limit? The basic exemption limit is the age of the SC given. Mukesh aged 55. So ultimately, as he is aging 55, the basic exemption limit will be what? 2,50,000. From this, what I will do? I will reduce other income. Other income. So in the problem, there is no other income, which is 0. So ultimately, what is the relief amount there? The relief amount is going to be by itself 2,50,000. Then this difference is nothing but taxable long-term capital gain. Taxable long-term capital gain. So what is that there? 11,81,593 minus 2,50,000 minus 2,50,000. You are getting 9,31,590 rounded off to 590. Now, what is the tax? As you have taken the indexation, tax on long-term capital gain is nothing but 20% of 9,31,590. So what you are getting? 9,31,590 into 20% will give you 1,86,318. Now we need to add 4% cess, health and education cess. This is nothing but the total tax liability. That's it. Now let us quickly move on to the next problem. Okay. Mr. C inherited from his father 8 plots of land in 1980. So 1980, 8 plots of land was inherited. His father purchased the land in 1960 for 5 lakhs. That means he is getting this under in accordance with mode specified under section 49 subsection 1. Okay. The fair market value of the lands as on 1st April 2001 was 8 lakhs. Fair market value of the plots 1 lakh each. So here what is happening? As the asset was purchased before 1st April 81, fair market value or cost, whichever is higher. Cost of acquisition under 49 subsection was cost to the previous owner. Cost to the previous owner is nothing but 5 lakhs. Now 5 lakhs or the fair market value 8 lakhs, whichever is high. 8 lakhs is high, so 8 lakhs will be considered as the what? Cost of acquisition. Now what he has done? On June 2001, C started a business of dealing in plots and converted 8 plots as stock in trade of his business. He recorded the plots at 45 lakhs being the fair market value on the date. Fair market value on the date of conversion will be considered as your full value of fair value of consideration. In June 2005, C sold the plots for 50 lakhs. C sold the plots for 50 lakhs. That means the converted stock in trade is sold in June 2005. See, this problem is very important because by reading the problem and your examination pressure, you will start applying the corresponding section. You will treat this as a conversion of stock in trade and you will compute the capital gains for this. But you need to see when the converted asset is being sold. The converted asset is being sold in June 2005 and now you are being asked for the current assessment year 2021, then this is purely no longer required. So this is no longer required. Now in the same year, that means in the year of the sale, he acquired a regional property for 45 lakhs. Invested amount of 5 lakhs in construction of more than 1 floor. The house was sold by him in June 2019 for 90 lakhs. Value adopted by the registration authorities for change in stamp duty value is going to be 1,50,000. So ultimately what? So whenever the sale consideration is less than a stamp duty value, your full value of consideration should be taken as the stamp duty value. So 1 crore 30 lakhs 50,000 will be considered as the stamp duty value. Less cost of acquisition. He acquired the residential house for 45 lakhs. The cost of this house is what? 45. When this house was acquired, basically this house was acquired in which period? This house was acquired in June 2005. In June 2005, this house was acquired. So ultimately, 45 lakhs into the year of transfer. What is the year of transfer there? 289. So what is the index value for 5/6? Index value for 5/6 is going to be 117. So 45 into 289 into 117, that gives me my indexed cost of acquisition. So how much you will be getting? 45 into this, you will be getting 1 crore 11 lakhs 15,385. You will be getting this as your indexed cost of acquisition. Not only that, he invested 5 lakhs in construction of one more floor in June 2006. So for the year 6-7, he has invested 6 lakhs. Index value for the year of transfer. Divide by index value for the year 6-7. Index value for the year 6-7 is nothing but 122. So take this as 122. 6 lakhs into 289 divided by 122, you will be getting 11 lakhs 84,000, 11 lakhs 84,426. The total will give you 1 crore 22 lakhs 99,811. So this is nothing but your indexed cost of acquisition. This difference will give you long-term capital gain. So now what is the long-term capital gain you are getting? Let us see. 1 crore 30 lakhs 50,000 minus 1 crore 22 lakhs 99,000. This will give you 6,60,190. You are getting 6,60,190. So now tax computation. You need to compute tax computation. Now let us see. Tax on long-term capital gain. How we can take? Tax on long-term capital gain. Here, what is your long-term capital gain? The long-term capital gain is 6,60,190. He don't have any other income. So you can take the relief under section 112, assuming the person is an individual. So what is the relief under section 112? I need to consider your basic exemption limit. So the age of individual is not given. I am taking an assumption that he is less than, he is not a senior citizen, 2,50,000. And this person does not have any other income, 0. So ultimately the entire amount of relief is nothing but 2,50,000. Now 6,60,190 minus 2,50,000, the difference gives you 4,10,190. Now what is this? Tax on long-term capital gain. On this 4,10,190, on this 4,10,190, I should take 20% as my rate of tax. So into 20% will give you 82,038. To this I need to add 4% my health and education cess. The total will give you 85,320. That's what is nothing but the total net tax liability. So net tax liability is nothing but this. Okay. Now we are going to the last problem of capital gains. So with this I can say we had successfully completed the capital gains part, right? Right, now let us move to the next problem. Ms. Gunjan purchased the land at a cost of 50 lakhs in the financial year 1-2 and held the same as a capital asset till 31st August 2013. So till 31st August 2013, she was holding that as a capital asset. That means what? After the date, she converted the land into stock in trade. She started her real estate business on what date? 1st September 2013. On 1st September 2013, what is the market value? I mean, fair market value? 320. So 320 lakhs was the fair market value. So now if we go back to same 45 subsection 2, what 45 subsection 2 says? Any sort of conversion of capital asset into stock in trade, fair market value on date of conversion will be considered as your full value of consideration. So what is fair market value there? 320 lakhs. When the conversion happened? 1st September 2013. What else 45 subsection 2 says? Taxable, but not in the year of conversion. Taxable in the year in which converted asset was sold. Now, so this will be your consideration, but not in the year of 13-14, not in the year of 13-14. Because let us see, she constructed 8 plots of equal size, quality and dimension. Cost of construction of each plot is 36 lakhs. So cost of construction cost is 36 lakhs per each plot. So what is the total cost of construction for 8 plots? 36 into 8 if I do, I'll be getting 288 lakhs. 288 lakhs is nothing but the cost of construction. Now, for the timing, let us leave it apart. Now, construction was completed in Jan 2020. She sold only 5 plots for 90 lakhs per plot. When? In 2020. Conversion happened in 13-14. Converted asset, few converted asset was sold in 1920. So as per 45 subsection 2, capital gains is not taxable in the year of conversion, but capital gains is taxable in the year in which converted asset is sold. Now here, fair market value we have to consider. Now, let us see. Let us first calculate your capital gain here. Then we'll discuss the rest of the problem. It's very simple. You need to explain computation of capital gains for Ms. Gunjan for the assessment year so and so. Here, particulars amount in rupees. You need to explain everything. Full value of consideration is 3 crore 320 lakhs, which is something called as for 3 crores 20 lakhs. That's what is something called as the full value of consideration. You need to give an explanation of 45 subsection 2 for this. Then less cost of acquisition. Cost of acquisition. The asset was acquired, the land was acquired by Gunjan in the year financial year 1-2 at a cost of 50 lakhs. So the cost of acquisition is what? 50 lakhs. So take the cost of acquisition to be 50 lakhs. Now what we are doing, we are trying to find out indexed cost of acquisition. 50 lakhs into index value for the year of transfer. Here what is the meaning of transfer? If you go back to 45 subsection 2, capital gains is taxable in the year in which converted asset is sold, but indexation should be provided only till the year in which asset is converted. So I need to take the index value for the year 13-14. So if we take that index value for year 13-14 is nothing but 220. 220 divided by 220 divided by what? 220 divided by index value for the year of acquisition 100. So ultimately what you will be getting, 50 lakhs into 220 divided by 100. If you do, you will be getting 50 into 220 divided by 100. If we do, we'll be getting 110. That means 1 crore 10 lakhs is going to be your indexed cost of acquisition. That is going to be your indexed cost of acquisition. So ultimately 320 minus 110, that will give me 2 crore 10 lakhs. So now let us update this to be 2 crores 10 lakhs is nothing but the total capital gain. This is nothing but your total capital gain. Now what she is doing? Is she selling the entire 8 lands? No. Is she selling the entire 8 plots? No. She is selling only 5 of such plots. She is selling only 5 of such plots. So proportionate capital gain will be taxable now. Okay. So now here let us try to calculate the proportionate capital gain. Proportionate capital gain. Proportionate capital gain. So how we can do? 2 crores 10 lakhs is the capital gain for your 8 plots. Now you are not selling the 8 plots, you are selling only 5 plots. So for 5 how much? So if I divide this with 8 multiplied with 5, I'll be getting proportionate capital gain amounting to 1 crore, okay, 31 lakhs, okay, 25,000. 1 crore 31 lakhs 25,000 will be the proportionate capital gain. Now when she sell the remaining 3 plots, the remaining capital gain is taxable. Now what she is doing? She has invested 70 lakhs in bonds issued by National Highway Authority on 31st March. When the converted asset was sold, she constructed, cost of construction was this. She sold on February 2020. So within a period of 6 months, she had acquired the bonds of National Highway Authority. So 54 EC. What 54 EC says? Maximum I will allow you only 50,000 beyond, 50 lakhs. Beyond 50 lakhs, you can't tax it. So now here 54 EC less exemption under section 54 EC will be restricted only to what? Only to 50 lakhs. Only to 50 lakhs it is restricted. So now the difference is taxable as long-term capital gain. Taxable long-term capital gain. So what is the taxable capital gain there? This gives you 81 lakhs. This gives you 81 lakhs 25,000 is nothing but your taxable long-term capital gain. Apart from that, she is also having a business income. Why business income? She is doing a business of selling. At what cost she is selling? Let us see. Here, what is mentioning here? She sold 5 plots, 90 lakhs per plot. Now, business income, what is the sale price? Sale price is nothing but 90 lakhs into 5. That gives you 450 lakhs rupees in lakhs. Okay, that gives you 450 lakhs. Now what? Now, what is the cost of the land? Fair market value on the date of conversion will be taken as the cost of the land. What was the fair market value on the date of conversion? 320 lakhs. The fair market value on the date of conversion is going to be 320 lakhs. Now let us take that as 320 lakhs. 320 lakhs is for 8 plots. You are selling only 5 plots. Now what is the land cost? 320 divided by 8 into 5, that gives you 200. So the land, the cost will be considered as 200 lakhs. Not only this, he is also telling you cost of construction. The problem specifies the cost of construction as what? Cost of construction of each plot was 36 lakhs. Cost of construction is what? 36 lakhs into 5 plots. Now 36 into 5 will give you the cost of construction of each plot, which is nothing but 180 lakhs rupees in lakhs. Now from the sale price, reduce this both, you will be getting something called as our taxable business income. So 450 minus the land cost is 200 minus construction cost is 180. So her profits and gains from business or profession is going to be 70 lakhs. Now, okay, let us do one final problem which comprises of your section 50C and income from other sources. Let us do one problem which consists of both the provisions. With that, I can say we have completed with all the provisions of your capital. Okay, now let us quickly move on to the last problem here. Mohini transferred a house to her friend Ragini. To a house to her friend named as Ragini for a consideration of 35 lakhs. The sub-registrar valued this at 48 lakhs. So ultimately 50C is going to apply. What section 50C says? Whenever the consideration received is less than the stamp duty value, the value determined for the stamp duty purpose, then ultimately the value determined for the stamp duty purpose will be considered as the full value of consideration as per section 50C. In this case, 50C is applicable. However, we have also discussed that if the case is referred to the valuation officer, whatever value determined by the valuation officer which is beneficial to the assessor will be considered. So here contested the matter for valuation. DRO valued the same thing to be 46 lakhs 50,000. So what is beneficial, 48 or 46.5? 46 lakhs 50,000 is beneficial. So as per 50C, full value of consideration is to be considered as 46 lakhs 50,000. That's as per section 50. So you need to explain clearly. Sale full value of consideration 46 lakhs 50,000. Why 46 lakhs 50,000? You need to refer to the provisions of section 50C. Done. Then accepting the value, differential stamp duty was also paid and the transfer was complete. So now this is the case. As the house was transferred to his friend Ragini, we need to consider this in the hands of Mohini. So in the hands of Mohini, capital gains is taxable. Okay, full value of consideration less when she had acquired, let us see, Mohini contested the said value, transferred a house on so and so date. So here, what was the cost of acquisition? Let us see. The total income of Mohini and Ragini for the assessment year before considering, Mohini purchased the house on 15th May 2000 for 25 lakhs and registration expenses was 1,50,000. So cost of acquisition 25 lakhs plus 1 lakh 50. My cost of acquisition is going to be 26 lakhs 50,000 into index value for the year of transfer 289. Index value for the acquisition, that means 1011. If you look into the index value for 1011, the index value will be 167. Now full value of consideration is nothing but 46 lakhs 50,000. Indexed cost of acquisition is going to be what? 26 lakhs 50,000 into 289 divided by 167. That will give you 45 lakhs 85,928. This is nothing but your indexed cost of acquisition. Then the difference is something called as long-term capital gain. So long-term capital gain in the hands of Mohini is what? 46 lakhs 50,000 minus this. You are getting 64,072. That's what is the long-term capital gain. Now total income of Mohini and Ragini before considering the transfer are rupees 2,80,000, 3,40,000 respectively. So Mohini is having income from other sources 2,80,000. Income from other sources amounting to 2,80,000. Now this is what is something called as our gross total income. As there is no 8 deductions given, I can also consider this to be total income. Now what is this? 64,072 plus 2,80,000. The total gives you 3,44,070. But you need to explain about this. Section 50C, you need to explain elaboratedly. So that's what is happening in the case of Mohini. Now what is asking? In the hands of Ragini also. So one part we had done. Now tax computation in the hands of Ragini. If we try to see, whenever any immovable property is transferred, we have discussed one provision. If the consideration is inadequate, the consideration is less than stamp duty value, then to the extent of the difference, the difference shall be computed as income from other sources in the hands of the receiver. So now stamp duty value was determined as 46 lakhs 50,000, which has been transferred to her at 35 lakhs. So what is the difference there? 46 lakhs 50,000 minus 35 minus 46 lakhs 50,000 minus 35, the difference is 11 lakh 50,000. So the 11 lakh 50,000 would be considered as income from other sources in the hands of Ms. Ragini. Along with that 11 lakh 50,000, Ragini is having income from other income amounting to 3 lakh 45,000. So the total income tax in the hands of Ragini is 14 lakhs 95,000. Again, if you go into section 56, subsection 2, clause 10, section 52, subsection 6, clause 10, what it says? It says that whenever any immovable property is transferred, income from other sources, immovable property is transferred without adequate consideration, then take the stamp duty value, okay, which is here what? Purchase income from other sources, purchase of immovable property at inadequate consideration. You need to write the provision. Stamp duty value minus the consideration paid, the differential is to be taxable as income from other sources. So purchase of immovable property at an inadequate consideration. So what is the fair market value here? 46 lakhs 50,000 was taken as the full value of consideration, for which the consideration charged from her was 35 lakhs. So this difference is taxable in accordance with 56 subsection 2. What is this difference coming to? 11 lakhs 50,000 was the difference. 11 lakh 50,000. To this, what we'll do? Other income. Ragini is having an other income. The total other income is coming to 3 lakh 45,000. So ultimately the gross total income or total income of Ragini is nothing but 14 lakhs 95,000 is the gross total income, or you call this as your total income. That's it. So with this we have done capital gain. So with this I had completed all the head of incomes. The next topic we'll be starting with set off and carry forward, clubbing, TDS, assessment procedures.